Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Everyday EDC. My name is Tyler, and today we are reviewing the Civivi Wyvern. So this is the Civivi Wyvern. As you can tell by these scales, I'm pretty sure these scales are FRN or some form of GFN or something. I don't specifically remember, but the confusing part about that is we have this titanium pocket clip, which is not ambidextrous. I don't think I've ever seen titanium on FRN or GFN, but whatever. So you can see they try to do these little dragon or fish scale pattern on here to kind of go along with the Wyvern. We have this backspacer that runs the whole way with a nice little cutout for a lanyard at the end. I don't mind it. If that's how you're going to put a lanyard on a knife, I appreciate that because it doesn't interfere with the pocket clip or anything at all. We have two screws here, one screw there, and that's it on this knife, and they are all T8. Pretty cool. So we have a flipper tab here with some decent jimping, not too bad. It's not, there's nothing special about it, but the fact that it's not special means that it's not bad because it doesn't hurt your hands. The action on this guy, yeah, it's pretty good. Obviously, with typical Civivi, this is running on, I believe it's steel ball bearings. And it kind of makes like an unsatisfying sound. It's like a weird, like muted thud, probably because of all the handle material that it's made out of. Speaking of handle material that it is made out of, let's see here. Can you guys see in there? We have some milling on the show side scale liners. I'm trying to see. I can't really see. There you go. And a little cutout on the inside there. So this thing's pretty darn light. Turn off the flashlight there. And then on these steel liners also, there's basically some cutouts or jimping in this liner here that makes it easy to access. It kind of is a little sharp. It does tear you up a little bit, but not a huge deal. This blade, in my opinion, is my favorite part about this knife. There's so much going on here. And you're going to say, Tyler, what do you mean there's so much going on with it? There's so much going on with this blade. First and foremost, it's a typical drop point or maybe even a clip point style with the way they kind of cut it off there. It's hollow ground, so it's very, very narrow, and that's how they do it with such a narrow blade. It's not very tall, but they get it down to a pretty thin edge, which we'll check on the specs. But not only that, you have this weird kind of shallow finger choil here that works. I don't have a problem with it, but if you slip, you're going to cut yourself. You have a spidey hole basically right here, a cutout in the blade that's very accessible with the reverse flick. The thumb flick, I can't really flick it, but I can get in there. It's just the way that my hand's positioned. I don't get enough pressure before it pops. But then here's what's cool. We have this swedge that really runs almost the full length of the blade and then stops, which, hey, what? Kind of a swedge is there to bring strength, in my opinion, as far down on the blade as possible, but they chose to get this hollow grind out to the tip rather than whatever. It's kind of interesting, though, because what they ended up doing is putting a fuller after the cutout in the hole. And yeah, I mean, it's just a very, very unique looking knife for the blade shape anyways. And as soon as I opened it, I go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And that's really the selling point for me. I think this knife blade is gorgeous, and there's just so much going on. You're like, what? So this blade steel, I believe, is D2. Let me check my notes. Yep. This is a D2 blade. And like I said, action's decent. It has that weird muted thud, the whack. And let's just not talk about that. Let's get on to some specs. Make sure we can see that on here. The overall weight coming in just shy of 3 ounces. We can pretty much call it 3 ounces on the dot. Not too bad, and that is obtained because of all this FRN and the milling on the scales on the inside. Let's check your overall length of this guy. You know, I just reviewed the Reich 801 SF, P801 SF, and I didn't give Jake credit. Jake's the one that sent these knives in, so I really have to thank him for doing so and allowing me to get a lot more content for the channel. Thank you, Jake. So this knife's coming in at 8 inches overall, a blade length of 3.5, and a cutting edge just shy of 3.5 inches. Oh. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here. let's check. And you are getting that blade to weight ratio as well for those of us that, or those of you that care. I don't really care. A blade stock thickness. Let's make sure I'm measuring at the widest part. Coming in at about 115 thousandths. So it's already starting out pretty narrow. And a behind the edge. Behind the edge of, what the fuck? Holy smokes, no wonder. Yeah, behind the edge thickness of 13 thousandths. What the freaking hell? And that carries the full length of the blade. Oh my, good lord. I didn't realize that this thing was that slicey. So, let me stop here for a second. Quite possibly the most narrow edge of any knife I've ever felt, even all of Civivi. So we're going to stop there. And I haven't sharpened this or anything, but let's just, yeah, it does that. And the coolest thing about that is I don't feel anything. Like, I don't, it's, yeah, it's hard to explain, but if you do a lot of paper cut tests, which I guess a lot of knife guys do because we just want something to cut, right? I can hear it. I cannot feel that. That's how thin behind that edge is. That's a double-edged sword, though. No pun intended. This tip is stupid thin. You will break that tip. All right, enough gushing over that edge. Holy smokes. That was super impressive. It's kind of cool to catch that on camera, too, because I don't do these measurements beforehand. I want to see all. So, due to the contoured scales, which I really appreciate, it's coming in at over 600 thousandths or 0.6 of an inch. So, it's not going to be super thin in your pocket, but what you're not getting out of thinness, you're making up basically in ergonomic feel in your hand. So this thing's coming in at 120 thousandths tall. To put that into perspective, your PM2 is coming in at 1.6 inches. Your PM3 is coming in at a 1.66, and your Manix 2 is coming in at a 1.74. Speaking of, sorry I keep reaching across the screen. With my new setup here, I have this like cardboard box with white paper so that it all makes the, I think it makes the lighting much better, but it kind of confines my workspace, so I have to like reach across. Anyways, here's your PM3. It's probably about a ½ inch longer than your PM3, and well, maybe it's longer than that because your Shaman's coming in maybe a quarter of an inch longer. So it's a pretty long knife. As I said, almost 8 inches long in total. Here is your feldspar and your mini feldspar. As you can see, almost the same exact size as the feldspar and probably about ½ an inch longer than your mini. Here's your Rat Model 1 and your Rat Model 2. In no particular order, that is said. So your Rat Model 2 is coming in at probably about ½ an inch shorter, and your Rat Model 1 is coming in at about a quarter of an inch longer to ½ an inch longer. So you can see this is a full-size knife. And then last but not least, compared with its other Civivi brethren, we have the Civivi Brigand and the Civivi Daurus. So I'm going to stop here again and kind of gush over the behind-the-edge thickness on this Wyvern. Let's see. Well, your Daurus, I just made a big deal out of nothing apparently, because your Daurus is coming in at 13 thousandths as well, but you also have a really large blade to come down to that. And maybe I was just talking out of my ass. I didn't expect it to come down that narrow, though, with that short of a blade. And here's your Brigand. Your Brigand behind the edge is coming in at 17 thousandths. So, yeah, I guess other Civivis have reached the point of just stupid thin behind the edge. But what I'm trying to get at is you see how much more blade that has to come down with that hollow grind? It's because it's starting out with a much more narrow blade stock. Anyways, yeah, there's your size comparisons. Totally deviated from the plan there. All right, let's do a quick recap, guys. So this has some contoured scales at their FRN or GFN or something. They're not G10, let's just put it that way. Same thing with the backspacer, not G10. I'm just going to call everything not G10 if it's not G10. We have some T8 screws. Not too many screws, though, by the way, because there's none on the show side, which is cool. And then, confusingly enough, we have this milled titanium pocket clip on not FRN scales. What? So this has cutouts in the liners, and we have stainless steel liner right here, liner lock. We also have a stop pin on this side. Let's talk about this blade, because this is where this thing steals the show. It's a very narrow blade stock with this cool looking fuller with the cutout right there and a swedge that runs for the length of the blade, but does not run out to the tip. So the tip is still coming down to 12 or 13 thousandths behind the edge, along with the rest of this hollow grind satin finish blade. You do have somewhere that this is more than a sharpening choil. I would call this a finger choil, but be careful. It's not the largest finger choil, and it is not deep. So you're not really going to get too much of your finger in there, and it could slip. You have a thumb ramp right here with some really functional jimping. I mean, it's perfectly set right there. Ergonomic wise, this thing is not bad at all. I'm not going to call it great. I can feel that pocket clip for sure back here. I wouldn't call it a hot spot just because of how I'm pushing down at the top, and I have a little bit loose hands around the bottom, but you can definitely feel it. Everything else, there's no real hot spots. It's kind of okay. I wouldn't call it, very good. The choked up position feels a little bit better, but because of the narrow blade stock, it does kind of cut in your hand a little bit. Action wise, obviously steel ball bearings, and there's plenty of opening methods, and it's super fun to fidget with. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. Again, D2 steel, I didn't really say that, on the blade. And the overall cost is coming in at $49.95. I'm not sure if they're making this model anymore. I think they are, and I'm pretty sure you can still find them, but I'm not 100% on that. So, real quick, my likes. You guys already know. I absolutely love this blade. I don't prefer it on mine, but they've done so much and knocked down and brought it down to such a narrow behind the edge. You got this cutout, the fuller. There's so much going on with this blade. It's not too much. It's like just enough to make it look complicated in a aesthetically pleasing type of way. I really do appreciate that. And then last, I mean, I like the action. I mean, it's a Civivi. We always like the action. Dislikes. I think the scales are ugly. I really don't like the fish scale pattern that they going on there, but I get it. With the name Wyvern, you're kind of like, there you go. While I dislike the aesthetics, I appreciate that it is actually contoured. And for the first time in my life, though, I would say that maybe this knife shouldn't be contoured. With the way this titanium pocket clip is just slapped on there to add an extra $5 to the knife because it's a titanium milled pocket clip, it doesn't sit on the scales right. There's something slightly off about the way it feels in the hand. And I don't know, it almost feels like it wears on my hand. Like my fingers up here, they don't hurt, but they're sore from squeezing it. And I'm not sure if that's an ergonomic issue or if it's just the way that, I don't know. So ergonomically, I really can't say that I really like this. And then the FRN, the non-G10, feels like non-G10. It feels cheap. Whew. That is all I got, guys. This is the Civivi Wyvern. My name is Tyler. This has been Everyday EDC. You guys stay sharp, stay safe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I genuinely mean it. Sorry for my recent absence lately, and we're going to come back hitting it hard, swinging. Have a great day, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate it. Subscribe, like. I have a Patreon. If you're interested, check that out. In the Patreon, we're giving bi-monthly giveaways based on the number of patrons, and I also give great discounts on the knives that I review. So thank you guys again so much for being a part of this channel and the best part of this community. Have a great day, guys.